as a prosecutor was going to be somebody that he wouldn't mind talking to. We knew that he liked the Cleveland Browns. He's from the Cleveland area. We're from the Cleveland. And so that kind of was our cash, if you will, to be able to build this rapport with him.
What do you remember about it?
Talking shit.
Talking.
How I did it, I talked to him straight. I told him he was a big perv. And I told him I didn't agree with him. He would say, "What'd you call me, a perverted homicidal maniac?" And I said, "Well, that's like certainly one of the things I'd call you." And he was just like, "Whatever, you're a hoe." I was mostly kind of honest with him.
Coming up.
Hey guys, welcome. Another day, another case. We will be talking about one of the most prolific serial killers in the United States. His name is Samuel Little. He was born June 7th, 1940 in Hailing, Reynolds, Georgia. Growing up, Sam did not have the easiest childhood. He would face some adversities in life. His mother was a prostitute and she gave birth to him in jail. His grandma would actually take Samuel in and raise him in Lorain, Ohio. Samuel struggled a lot in school. He definitely was not good at making friends. He was not the outgoing type. He was very shy and withheld. This would lead to him dropping out of school. Samuel started off committing crimes very young. Granted, they were petty crimes, but they were nonetheless crimes. He would start very small with theft and just little burglaries here and there. The theft would place him in juvenile detention. After Sam's first run-in with police, it would only go downhill from there. He would be collecting convictions, baby, and that's a fact. He would go from theft to robbery to armed robbery, from assault to assault with battery, assault. In the 50s, Sam would move state to state on a crime spree, collecting convictions like DUI, fraud, rape, burglary. By 1975, he would be arrested over 25 times. In 1971, while he was serving a sentence in prison, he would meet Jean Dorsey. The two would quickly get into a relationship and would have an on-again, off-again fling until Jean actually tipped off Samuel that his current girlfriend would be testifying against him in court for a robbery. Him and Jean would be inseparable after this. I think that it really meant a lot to him that she showed her loyalty and told him what his girlfriend was going to do behind his back. And they would go on another crime spree, shoplifting over thousands of dollars in cigarettes, clothes, food. Literally, if they could get their hands on it, they were going to steal it. They would do this until Jean's death in 1988. Sam would be arrested over 100 times before his final conviction, only serving a total of 10 years throughout that entire process. So the justice system really did fail the women in the situation. Another thing before I get into the victims, one of the reasons Samuel was able to go under the radar for so long was because the type of victims he chose. He would choose women that were homeless or prostitutes or drug addicts, and also I think almost all of his victims were women of color. So in that time, none of those groups of people, none of their deaths were really being investigated by police at that time, as disgusting as that is. So by him choosing these kind of victims, it really did help him stay under the radar for a long time. Samuel had around 93 victims. There could have been more that maybe he forgot about or he didn't confess to, but before he died, he confessed to around 93 murders, and the FBI was able to corroborate about 50 to 60 of those murders. Samuel's first known victim was Yvonne Pless. There's not much about her story and how she died, although his MO is pretty consistent throughout the entirety of his crimes. Yvonne Pless was murdered in 1972 in Macon, Georgia. She was also known as the Macon Jane Doe, because it took until 2018 for them to identify her and for Samuel to confess. 5 years later, his second known victim would be Fredonia Smith, and she would also be murdered in Macon, Georgia. In 2012, Little was located at a homeless shelter in Kentucky on a drug charge, and while he was in custody, they did take his DNA and ran it in the system, and his DNA would link him to 3 homicides in Los Angeles, California. These victims were killed between 87 and 89, and their names were Carol Eldford, Guadalupe Apodaca, and Audrey Everett. I'm going to put their names right here just in case I don't want to mispronounce anyone's names. So I'm just going to also put them here. In 2014, he was found guilty of these murders and sentenced to life without parole. This conviction would actually encourage the FBI to list his information in the Violent Criminal Apprehension Program, and then ping, 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 lights up like a Christmas tree. And this would link him to a bunch of murders across 19 states in the U.S. Samuel would say that he was commissioned by God to kill people and put them out of their misery. Okay. But other times he would say that he was possessed by the devil. So I don't think Samuel even knows what or how Samuel feels. Either way, it's like drugs, and I came to like it. That's what Samuel said. But honestly, Samuel's MO was very violent. He liked to knock people out by punching them, and then he liked to strangle them while masturbating. Yeah, you heard that right. That got him dubbed the stroke and choke killer. I'm sorry, it's not funny. But that got him dubbed the stroke and choke killer because he liked to strangle people and masturbate at the same time. He honestly could not tell you anything about his victims. He couldn't tell you the date that they were murdered or what they were wearing, but he can tell you the car he was driving, and he can tell you where they were, and he can probably draw a picture of them. Little loved to draw, and him drawing would actually help solve a lot of his murders because he couldn't remember their names or the dates. So the pictures that they had of them, they could link and identify some of these cold case bodies. In 2018, Samuel was serving his sentence in the Los Angeles County Prison when James Holland, a Texas Ranger, would approach him trying to solve the 1994 cold case of a stripper named Denise Brothers from Odessa, Texas. Little would draw her picture and they would solve her murder. And he would also confess to the murder of a lot of other women just to get transferred out of the LA County Prison.
Describe him. At first, there's a lot of hatred. He does not like law enforcement. He hates district attorneys. He didn't shut down the interview, but there wasn't a whole lot of interest in communicating from the get-go. So it was a very unique experience. I guess initially after walking in the door, I go into interviews confident. But after walking into the door and after the initial conversation, I started, second guessing myself. Is this going to work out? Is this going to go anywhere? And ultimately it did. So it was unknown. There's a lot of belief that there's a lot of murders out there. LA had spent some time looking into him. They believed that he would, committed a lot of murders. The Florida Department of Law Enforcement believed he committed a lot of murders. The FBI was convinced he committed a lot of murders. But it was really unknown going in there. Had he killed people? Absolutely. He had been, arrested and tried by LA, and he most definitely killed 3 people. Were there more out there? I felt confident there was. The exact number, unknown. Did I think that we would get to 93? No.
So once James Holland found that Samuel had a knack for drawing, he would actually buy him a bunch of art supplies and bring them to the prison. And they solved over a dozen cold cases just by Samuel drawing his victims out. Samuel Little would die in a California prison on December 30th in 2020 at 80 years old. His cause of death is unknown, but he did have heart problems and diabetes and a lot of other health issues. He was in a wheelchair at the time of his death, and he was 80 years old, so I think it's just natural causes. But yeah, so that is the story about the killer who killed more people than Ted Bundy and Jeffrey Dahmer combined. This was a hell of a case, and honestly, it was so interesting to research. And the way that he describes killing his victims is literally like he's describing any other day, like just a random day at the park. Like
North Little Rock. Tell me what that girl looked like.
Oh man, I loved her. I forget her name. Oh wait, I think it was Ruth.
Okay.
She was a heavy set, big old yellow gal, and had buck teeth. It had a gap between the teeth. That's what it was. And she was like honey colored skin, and she had like her hair was not really long. It was.
How tall do you think she was?
She was about 5'7".
How much do you think she weighed?
She weighed about close to 200, about 170. 180.
Pretty big girl.
Yeah.
Now, where did you meet her at?
Okay, down there in the crack house. They heard about 6 other girls were sitting on the porch. The dude selling crack in there. I stopped to go in there. I seen the girls. That's why I stopped. We stayed together 2 days or more. I think about 3 days. We was going shoplifting. We went to Sears. We went to Kroger's, and that's where I got busted. Mm-hmm. They took me to jail, and she went and stayed in the car. And the manager of Kroger's, I guess he got tired of her laying on his property in that car. He called the station where I was at in North Arkansas to drop the charges. Mm-hmm. So he can come down and get this gal and car out of here. They cut me loose. So we was headed toward with that place where Walmart's original store been. I whooped off the road and back into that little woods. It was a cornfield back there. I pulled through it, and on the other side of the cornfield was a trash pile. I parked the car facing out where I could see anybody coming in. So I pulled her out of the car. She's too big for me to carry her. So I just pulled her out of the car and laid on that trash that was lit there.
So was it like a cornstalk pile, or was it?
Yeah, a bunch of corn stalks.
What could you see from there?
I could see the highway, and in the woods is that way. But it's right outside of Little Rock. I was about 10 miles from it.
From North Little Rock, you think 10 miles?
Yeah, it was about 10 miles.
this man definitely has some mental issues. But with that being said, thank you for tuning in for this video. I can't wait to see you in the next one.